recording.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and have our congregational song after the message. So Stephen, if you'll come on up here right now, young man. Stephen's one of my favorite people in the world, and I've known him for a very long time. I knew his mother, who is also a Unity minister, and so you're more like family than guest speaker for me, but he's going to do our service this morning, and he is a scholar of the Course in Miracles, and love and forgiveness is his purpose in life, and this morning he's going to speak on awakening from the dream. So.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you all doing this morning?
Wonderful.
All right, okay, all right. Well, before I start with my talk, well, first, are there any, everyone here heard of The Matrix, the movie The Matrix?
No.
Okay, any Matrix fans here, Matrix fans here? Okay, all right, I love that movie.
Too violent.
All right, love the movie though. I mean, as far as the message, I mean, but before I get into my talk, I have a joke. All right, so and this joke involves a captain and his crew, and so they are out to sea. I don't know if any of you have heard this one. But there's a storm that's raging. As the storm raged, the captain began to look over the situation, and he realized that the ship was sinking fast. So after assessing the situation, looking around, he said, hey, anyone here know how to pray? And so for a moment, there was silence or pause, as you could hear the winds blowing, and then, I, Captain, one of his men stepped forward. I know how to pray. Good, said the captain. You stay here and pray while the rest of us put on our life jackets because we're one short. So much for Captain going down with the ship. Right? So much for that. So, all right. So I'm going to start off because as far as awakening from the dream, this is what we all go through. This is a process that I'm going to describe that we all go through. We all go through an evolutionary cycle of awakening, starting from the asleep stage, and gradually moving into awakening to spirit, then moving forward into transformation, and the final level is mastery, or the full self-realization of the Christ incarnate, which is the potential of each and every one of us here. Okay? And in the Matrix, Neo went through the exact same stages. And when he was in his victim stage, one point, part where he was in his victim stage was at the point where he was avoiding the agents, and Morpheus was talking to him on the telephone and telling him to step out on the ledge. And so the first thing that he said when he was told to step on the ledge of a very tall building was, why is this happening to me? What did I do? So that right there indicates that he was clearly in his asleep or victim stage. Why is this happening to me? What did I do? This is something that each and every one of us goes through. This represents all of us at some point in our lives. This represents how we in our unawakened state, how we are in our unawakened state. Victim consciousness is when we ascribe causality to things, outside of ourselves. So in other words, events and things that happen, we ascribe that, a causality to that, and we are merely the effects. All right. So, in this time of my life, when I was in the victim stage, it was a very long victim stage for me of about 20 years, ranging from 1986 to 2006. And this stage involved my father, my relationship with my father. As a young man, as a teenager, I always, and even younger, I always wanted my father in my life. And I did not understand why there were always events that came that interfered, or how I perceived it, interfered in my father being in my life. So from 1986 all the way to 2006, that was a victim stage for me. I blamed my father. I judged and condemned him. He was not in my life. He didn't do anything for me. This was my state of consciousness. This was my consciousness back then. So I became very angry with my father. This was my victim stage. Okay. Over some time, I stopped speaking to my father. And so there was just no conversation at all. And that was how I dealt with things. So that was a denial or a repression, okay? So victim consciousness equals, I have no influence over the events nor situations that occur. I am free to judge and condemn as my thoughts, beliefs, and words do not influence the world I live in. For the world is cause while I am merely effect. That is the frame of mind. And even though someone that's in the victim stage may not actually say those things, that's actually what they're saying. Because what we do indicates what we think and what we believe. All right. Now this stage also, in this stage of awareness, people in this stage, they see the majority of things in their life through the eyes of fear. Fear gives birth to the scarcity principle, or thoughts of lack, things that you don't have, things that you're not getting, okay? I think, are we all familiar with the scarcity principle? Okay, all right. Now words usually found in the vocabulary of people that are in the victim stage or living in a fear-based stage or in stages where they feel that they have no power, are lucky and unlucky, coincidence, I can't, defeat, impossible, all alone, give up, isolated, estranged, cut off, desolate, depressed, depleted, unfulfilling, pessimistic, careless, humorless, too high, too hard, too old, too young. Negative is how some people would describe someone in this stage. All right? A Course in Miracles states, God has given us everything. This is the one fact that means the ego does not exist, and which therefore makes it profoundly afraid. In the ego's language, to have and to be are different, but they are identical to the soul. Okay? The soul knows that we all have everything and are everything. Any distinction in this respect is meaningful only when the idea of getting implies a lack. That is why we make the distinction, that is why there is no distinction with A Course in Miracles that is made between having the kingdom of God and being the kingdom of God. Now, I've been talking about being in the victim stage, time to move on to some of the other stages, and there are ways that we move on to some of these other stages. If it is a gradual change, then we will begin to feel an emptiness. We will begin, and as we feel this emptiness, that is just basically a inner yearning of the soul, causing us to feel that empty feeling, saying, hey, there is more. I believe there's something more. And as we feel that emptiness, then we begin to question. We begin to question everything. We begin to question every thought that we had while we were in that victim stage. Every victim or fear-based thought, we begin to question it. Okay? Now, if we don't gradually move out of that victim stage, then the universe is actually designed to continue to give us more of what we believe in. It is actually designed to adhere to our belief systems, our thoughts. We are royalty. We come from royalty. So anything that we think or say or believe, the universe will continue to give that to us. However, the universe also adheres to a higher authority than us. And that higher authority is our soul, or our higher selves. Whereas before we came into this consciousness, our souls already said, hey, if I am not getting it by this point, then do something so that I get it. And so then we receive, we get life-changing events that happen to us. So examples of some of these life-changing events are, could be a near-death experience. Okay. Could be a hurricane. Okay. All right. And hey, we all went through that. Okay. Absolutely. Some examples of some event-related experiences could be the transition of a loved one. Yep. Historically, many of our greatest periods in time were preceded by a period of great hardship and struggle. So that is just the nature of things. When our society grew complacent and it was time for us to move forward, there was an event that happened. And this event was not an event to punish us, as sometimes is translated in some of the Old Testament. Okay? It is actually an event that looks for it's an event that loves us, that wants to awaken us to our higher potential, the potential that our higher selves already know we're capable of expressing, but right now we may not be capable of expressing. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. So, I experienced 2 life-changing events in my life that helped to propel me to that next stage, which I'm about to talk to. The next stage is the awakening to spirit. So I was busy condemning and judging my father, and it was only until I had to experience going through without being my son, without my teenage sons, without my sons before they were teenagers. There were events that happened that made it so that I could not have my sons in my life, no matter what I attempted to do, and it was extremely frustrating, and it didn't make sense. And I'm telling you right now, I was meant to go through that experience because I judged my father, because I condemned my father. Okay? That is why I was meant to see what it will be like to be without my children in my lives. All right? So I'm going to move on to the awakening to spirit stage. Okay? So let's go back to the matrix. All right? So when Neo went through this stage, all right? Now, Leo has been learning and training and is now ready to meet the Oracle, all right? And so on their way to go meet the Oracle, he begins to comment on restaurants and places that he passed by when he used to live there, when he was a resident in this dream world. And then it all seems surreal to him as he has these memories, as he realizes that it was all just a dream. So that's where he went through his awakening to spirit. Now this stage involves a gradual acceptance of accountability for what is being experienced, as false perceptions of self are given up through the process of forgiveness. There may be a flip-flopping between victim and victimless stages while you are going through this thing. It's not like you all of a sudden, because you went through this life-changing event that is causing you to now see things differently. It doesn't mean that you, by habit, don't go back to your victim stage every once in a while. But at the same time, now that you are changing, you are beginning to catch it. That's the difference. You're beginning to catch it. Like, that's that victim stage. I get it. And so again, there is a continual, gradual awakening to spirit. So now, what I experienced during this time, as far as the gradual awakening to spirit, I became a prayer chaplain at my church. I began, as I went through these life-changing events with being reunited with my oldest son, and the joy that came from that, and the change that came from that, and being happy that I had my son in my life again, I began to become more spiritual. I began to be more grateful. I began to attend church. A church would only see me like once every month or so, every 2 months or whatever, but I began to go more often then, okay? And I began to pray with the prayer chaplains before I became a prayer chaplain. As a matter of fact, Valerie was one of them. I used to pray for everything. I would pray about, I had business deals. I had a marketing company back then. I had some business deals I was working on, so hey, let's put some prayer on that. And, I was a Lakers fan. I said, let's put some prayer on that. And, so everything.
All the important things.
Everything. I was just like, because I believed in the power of prayer, and I felt more full. And one of my milestones was when I forgave my father in that same year. It was at 5 a.m. And I remember laying in my bed, couldn't sleep. And I began to go over in my mind of the people who I felt had hurt me, who had caused me pain. And so I found myself forgiving it. I found myself not wanting to hold on to that energy anymore. I found myself saying, I forgive this. I forgive that. And then it came to my father, and I started going over all of that. And so then I forgave it. I forgive my father. I forgive my father for anything that I felt that he did to me. And then I began to forgive myself for anything that I did to other people. And after that, after performing, it took maybe a couple of hours, something like that, I remember commenting to Farrellyn, because she was over the prayer ministry. And I was like, I just feel so much lighter now. I feel free. I feel like, it's like almost like someone had taken off some ankle weights or something. Some ankle weights that were keeping me down. I didn't even know that I had them until I took them off, and now I felt like I could fly. I just felt free, and I felt unusually happy. I wasn't used to just being happy like that. I mean, I wasn't sad, but I wasn't particularly happy either. And so, but I found myself happy and smiling, and I was like, what's going on with me? What's wrong with me? And so I remember consulting with Farrellyn about that. Yeah, that this was I wasn't used to it. I was completely unused to this new feeling of freedom that I felt. So then I took a 6-month sabbatical. I began to want to learn to know about another part of me that I had never taken the time to get to know. I taught myself Spanish. Yeah, I'd always wanted to learn Spanish, but I was too busy, hey, business and doing this and all these other different things. And so, I always wanted to learn Spanish. I think I'm gonna do that. Yeah, I started going to a free Spanish class. I started getting Spanish tutorials and teaching myself, and I got pretty good. I woke up when I wanted to wake up. I went and volunteered at food pantries and other different places. I just wanted to give back because, regardless of whatever victim-like thoughts that I had, I knew that I was still blessed. I was still blessed. I had a roof over my head. I wasn't doing bad. So I wanted to be able to give back. So this was, again, my awakening stage. So, all right. So again, there may be events which may usher us to this next stage as well, okay? Because it could be a gradual thing, or it could be another event that will usher us into that next transformational stage. The next stage I'm about to discuss is transformational stage, or the transformational, where we really start to begin to transform into our highest potential. Now, how I began my journey into transforming to my highest potential, I began reading A Course in Miracles. And I suddenly realized that prior to that, my soul had been deprived. My soul was getting nourishment. I felt nourishment coming in to my being. And I was gaining a level of understanding that I hadn't never heard of before. You okay, Jack? That I had never heard of before. And so that's what kind of brought me to my transformational stage. Now, as far as back to the Matrix, as far as Neo going to his transformational stage, it was right after Morpheus had gotten captured by the agents, and Neo decided he's going to go back in there and get him. He was told by the Oracle that he was not the one. Okay? What she was saying was, you're not the one right now because it seems like you're waiting for something, but he didn't get that. Okay? So now he's going back in there, and he and Trinity, his companion, are preparing to enter into the Matrix again. A whole slew of agents and an army of people that are waiting for them. And so Trinity says, Neo, no one's ever done this before. And he said, that's why it's going to work. So, in this stage, spiritual truths and teachings are sought after by the individual. The individual may even replace old friends from the days of old thought patterns and beliefs for friends more aligned with that individual's present state of consciousness. Old erroneous thought patterns now begin to fade away as the individual begins to live life intentionally. In this stage, one finally awakens to the understanding that all causality belongs with them, and the world is merely effect of our causality. The world we perceive, the world that we see, that we experience, is a direct reflection of what is within us. Completely opposite from victim-like stage, huh? Absolutely. So they now begin to see themselves as masters of their fate, as the very power of thoughts and words are now realized. Now, the power of our thoughts and words are now realized. Okay. Everyone know about the sower, the parable of the sower in the Bible? Well, there's a metaphysical meaning about the parable of the sower. Our thoughts are like seeds. Our consciousness is the soil. And so we literally reap the harvest of our tomorrows based on the seeds that we sow into our consciousness today. The thoughts that we sow into our consciousness today will reap us the harvest of our tomorrows. So, as we get into this transformational stage, then we have to be very mindful of our thoughts. We have to be very mindful of the seeds that we sow into our consciousness. Because no, we are not victims. We are causality. We are the cause of all that we experience. If there is something that you want to see in your tomorrows, you have to sow it into your consciousness today, my brothers and sisters. So, now, in my transformational stage, I began reading the Course in Miracles. That instilled a hunger in me that still has not been quenched, my brothers and sisters. I have read A Course in Miracles since January of this year, 3 times. Okay? I have read almost half of the Bhagavad Gita. I have read Way of Mastery, Way of the Heart several times. I have read Radical Forgiveness. I have read Disappearance of the Universe. I have read all of these books. Now, there is a hunger now. And the more I learn, the more I grow. And the more I can help my brothers and sisters and speak to them about the truth, because I am no different than anybody else. I am no different than anybody else. It may have been an advantage to have a mother who was a unity minister. That was an advantage that my soul chose. My soul chose that as a springboard. Okay? My milestone in this transformational stage, I facilitate a Course in Miracles meeting. I attend many Course in Miracles meetings, group meetings. I attend about 5 a week. But I facilitate one of my own. And during one such Course in Miracles meeting, about a month ago, my father spoke up and expressed guilt about not being in my life. Oh yeah, my father lives with me now. We have a home together. Oh yeah, we solved all. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But he expressed guilt about not being in his son's life, and so he decided he wanted to be there for his son. He wanted to be there for me, and that is why he is here. And do you know what I said to my father? I said, Dad, there's a part of me that wants to cry, but you need to release that. Because you were not supposed to be in my life. My soul chose this. My soul chose to be in an incubator environment afforded by my mother. I realize that fully now. You were not supposed to be in my life. You were not supposed to be in my life when I was at an impressionable age. I was supposed to learn about ways of spirit. I was supposed to learn about different religions, Hinduism, and things like that. I was supposed to learn about all of these things to prepare me for what Spirit has in store for me. So, my father and my brother, let it go. I love you, let it go. This happened about a month ago. So, that was my milestone. Which brings me to the final stage. Now, I can't tell you about this final stage because I haven't gotten to this stage yet as far as mastery, okay? But I'm going to talk about Neo first, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about stepping into the Christ, all right? All right, so back to the Matrix. So Neo, who resurrects after being killed by the agents, awakens to his full potential as the One. The agents who notice that he is alive raise their weapons and fire. But Neo raises his hand and says, no. In response to his command, the bullets slow down and stop in midair right in front of him. He then reaches out and grabs one of the bullets and inspects it, looks it over, and then drops it. It falls harmlessly to the ground. All of the other bullets fall simultaneously. The One has arrived. So, in Way of Mastery, Way of the Heart, I found this part that I want to read to you all. Way of Mastery is a book that was another channeled book like Course in Miracles. It's another channeled book from Yeshua ben Joseph, or better known as Jesus. I promise you, if you become wholly committed to awakening from the dream you have dreamt since the stars first began to appear in the heavens, and if your one desire is to be only what God created, then lay at the altar of your heart with every breath, everything you think you know, everything you think you need, and look lovingly upon every place that fear has made a home in your mind, and allow correction to come. It will come. Regardless of how you experience it, it will come. And the day and the moment will arise, and all of your pain and fear and suffering will have vanished like a wind that pushes the foam of the wave away, revealing the clarity of the ocean beneath you. You will literally feel throughout your being that there never was a dream. Some memories might remain with you, and you will know that somewhere you must have dreamt a dream or had a thought or wondering what it would be like to be other than what God created you. But it will be such a faint echo that it will leave no trace upon you. In your heart, you will smile gently, regardless of the circumstances in which you find yourself. There will be peace from the crown of the head to the tips of your toes, and that peace will walk before you wherever you go. It will enter a room before you enter it with a body. And those who are becoming sensitive will wonder who has come into their presence. And some will even say, "Behold, I believe Christ has come for dinner." And you will be that one. For that is who you are, Christ eternal of Jeshua. So my brothers and sisters, go and be that light that God created you to be. Thank you.